Welcome one and all. Step right up and get your tickets for another moment in gaming history.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome officially to the channel. This is a series where I go into various different moments in video game history, and today I want to talk about something that's a bit of an extension / replacement of what we talked about last week. Those of you who are new here, let me fill you in. Last week we covered the D-pad, where it got its start, and how it eventually got replaced by the analog stick in the mid-90s due to a push into 3D gaming. And that got me thinking, did the analog stick start where I thought it did? How far back does this go? And what makes it better in a medium than, say, the D-pad? Let's take a look today at the analog stick. So, how does an analog stick work anyway, and what makes it different than a D-pad? Well, D-pads rely on a single electrical connection using internal digital contacts for up, down, left, and right. Analog sticks work far differently in the fact that they use continuous electrical activity running through pedometers. This is a device used to measure displacement in any different direction. At this point, I think you can kind of see why this became so popular as games moved into 3D. They needed something that could measure slight to forceful movements. Something that would allow constant measuring of positioning in relation to center that would allow players to have more fluid movement in aiming. Up until this time, everyone had been trying to use a more traditional D-pad movement, which is more of an on-off mechanism to do the same kind of movement. This led to clunky, tank-like controls that just really didn't work for these kinds of games. However, this was the 90s, and I think many of you like me immediately go to this controller. That got me thinking, was this the first instance? How far back did this go? Have I been lying to you all in my N64 video? Kinda, yeah, or, you know, I wouldn't have this video today, so let's jump in the Wayback Machine again and see how deep this rabbit hole goes. With that said, snag a drink, get some snacks, settle back, let's see how far back the analog stick actually goes. Now, I wasn't completely untruthful when I said the N64 had one of the first analog sticks. It was just one of the earliest thumb-operated analog sticks. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, where does the NES Max fit into this that operated with your thumb as well? And the answer is, I kind of really don't know, except for the fact that I think it probably influenced the 3DS analog stick in some way. But even that isn't the first instance of an analog stick. Other systems have used this in the past, such as the Atari 5200 controller. This was an 8-directional analog stick that worked much like the Atari 2600 controller, however, it realistically operated in much the same as the original 2600 controller. What I mean is it really didn't have any difference as there was no real change in acceleration based on the distance from center. What this means is it operated more like a D-pad where you're either moving or you're not. There was no walk or run functionality like available in the N64 controller. I know what you're saying, that still counts, it was first. Ha! Well, if that counts, so does what I found next. Oh yeah, I'm going there. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you something I know almost nothing about. I literally found this while looking up analog sticks to see how far off my base of knowledge actually was, because, you know, it's Tuesday, and building myself up is nothing I ever fell into the habit of. Nope. I'm that guy that goes out and says, bring it on, because, well, that's how I learn. What I found was something called the 1292 Advanced Programmable Video Game System. I can already see the look. It's the same one I had. What the heck is this thing? This was a second-generation video game console that was released in 1978. Oh yeah, we're back. Me having my ego beat up by the 70s again. I don't know what I did to his family, but he's constantly out to put me in my place. And he did it again. Not only did this system have a microprocessor allowing it to use cartridges, it had a hobby module that gave it 65 kilobyte of user programmable memory, and a 5-DIN socket that allowed data to be saved to a cassette tape player. Yep, this thing allowed you to program on it, making it one of the earliest examples of a hybrid computer/game system. On top of that, it also featured the very first analog stick I could find. It came with 2 wired controllers that had 2 directional pedometers that varied if they were either self-centering or not. So there you have it. The earliest true analog stick beats the N64 by nearly 20 years. It's funny to think that this technology was in use in games this far back, but in some ways it makes sense, as analog signals were in use much longer than the more compact digital signals used more commonly today. they also have a very real impact on the way we game today, with Nintendo adding in a single one as an option to their controller in 1995, completely changing the way we game with more refined controls to go along with the tried and true D-pad of old, to Sony changing the game again in 1997 with the release of the DualShock controller, changing forever how we look at 3D controls in video games. The analog stick has not only come back, but become the way to play most games in the modern era. Not even VR can fully get away from it, with many of these controllers, most notably the Oculus ones, having an analog stick built into each controller. What do you guys think of this one though? Again, I'd asked if you ever used one, but let's be honest, you have. How important is a good analog stick for you on a controller? What's your favorite one? Let me know in the comments. However, for now, thank you so much for watching and spending part of your day with me. If I could ask you one more favor, please leave this video a like. And if you haven't, consider subscribing. It helps me out a ton. For now though, thank you once again, and until next time, happy gaming.